because without it, many questions could not be answered. So we have an energy field of life. This energy field is part of the health of each person. The energy disseminating through the body moves through all of the circulatory system. Some of this energy is in the tiniest cell or atom. Part of this energy gives us the power to think. Another part gives us the power to walk. All this energy of some kind is real. Now, we have long assumed, for example, that the body just takes care of itself, and if we feed it regularly, it'll take care of us. This is a complete lack of understanding, and it has very serious consequences, because it prevents us from cooperating consciously and intelligently with the energies which do supply us the necessary elements of health and survival. Therefore, somewhere in this pattern, there is an energy, a sea of it, a great ocean of it, which, like air itself, which may be its principal carrier, that fills all of these vacancies of space, exists in every creature, shares its reality and its power with the horse and the tiniest insect. Everything is supported and is alive because of a life principle in it. And this life principle is not sustained by food. It is not sustained by exercise. But its condition and its ability to function is largely influenced by the conduct of the creature that it inhabits. That this energy is universal, not only in its dissemination, but in the infinite variation and variety of modes and forms. Therefore, it is indeed a kind of protean life that takes any appearance that exists. It can be found in the anthill, or it can be found in the elephant. Everything that lives off of this energy, and in everything this energy is exactly adapted to the needs of that thing. The answer seems to be that in one way or another the energy is what fashioned that thing in the beginning, because every physical visible force is merely a manifestation of one of these great invisible streams of energy that functions in space. So if we start looking into this, we begin to say how the ancients could have imagined and did imagine that this world that we don't see, the world in which we are constantly pouring things and having them poured back at us out of this strange atmosphere. One of the most common problems, of course, is imagination. Is there anything that a human being can imagine that could not exist? This has been a great question. Is imagination capable of creating life or creating things? Or is it merely a transformer? Is it merely a way in which energy of another type is steered or conditioned into a pattern we have created with our own thinking? I think in fantasy we have this fairly well figured. We find healers, and spiritual healing is distinctly a possibility. We find that magnetic healing is accomplished by opening up the locked areas of distribution of energy through the body. All death in form is the result of obstruction. Energy breaks up obstruction. If energy fails, obstruction takes over. So healing of various kinds of a religious nature certainly does exist. Now, of course, the moment you say that, you place yourself in the problem of magic. If you study this and you realize that you have been to a healer of good reputation and that you have had constructive results, the question now remains is, why and how did you get these results? Did the healer actually give you a kind of healing that was separate from your own consciousness? Was it superior and absolute, like a medication, something that is given to you? Or was the healing a stimulation of your own internal resources? It is probably a little of both. It is a little of both because, under a belief, we are capable of accomplishing a great deal. This is well pointed out in Oriental philosophy in the problem of Zen, where the entire development of the individual arises from the complete conditioning of his own psychic integration. Now, if it is the individual who is healing himself, then he is healing himself by releasing energy. He has broken up an obstruction. Now, if we go up to another level of energy, we can take mental energy. An individual who has a new idea or learns something will have the power to break up the obstruction of a previous error. If he discovers he was wrong in something, and by discovery gets a remedy, then he breaks up the error pattern in himself. And how did the error pattern get into him? It came because he himself put it there through an erroneous attitude, or by believing something that was not true. So the correction and the ailment are tied together by one great factor alone, and that is energy. Energy which permits all changes and transformations to occur. Energy which changes the moral life of everything, results in the evolution of species, results also in the mysterious worlds of space around us. Energy, then, is a factor in all magic. It is life. It is something that can be steered. Now, there are two ways of steering it. One is the individual trying to adapt it to his own needs, and the other is a universal power adapting or adopting energy to its purposes through living things. Therefore, there is an energy that arises directly from deity, and there is an energy that arises from deity but is distributed through forms including the human being. And this is represented in the ancient formula by the fact that there are rays that go directly from the sun to the earth and from the earth into man. There are also rays that go directly from the sun to the moon and then are carried across to man from the lunar orb, even though it is dead, so-called. There is no thing actually dead. But the energy field of the moon is very slow in comparison to that of a live planet. So all these different things are happening in space, and in the midst of these rises the magician, the person trying to use magic. Magic being the adaptation of energy, the application of it to other forms than that which is most commonly assigned to it. The energy factor that says all things are possible. The energy that takes the poor boy into the great scientist, or takes the comparatively self-centered individual and makes out of him an economic giant. These things are all energy. Without the energy, he couldn't accomplish anything. But with the energy, he has something that adapts itself to the shape or purpose of himself. But there are laws governing this energy, and the individual does not normally know what these laws are. Therefore, he assumes that energy can be used as he pleases. And if he discovers new ways to use it, he is that more fortunate. Actually, however, energy is conditioned, limited, restricted, and specialized just as every other element in nature. So the individual who uses energy for magical means came finally to become considered under two headings: ceremonial or divine magic, and negative or black magic. White magic was the use of all energies for the good of all that lives. Therefore, white magic is the unselfish application of energies. Black magic is selfishness. Black magic is the use of understanding, wisdom, knowledge of secret matters, by means of which an individual can impose a tyranny upon someone else. So the use of energy has its own price, its own expense, its own bill that will be definitely brought to bear on the subject. In the problem of energy, then, now we'll go into a kind of an Egyptian phase of this, and we see the individual in a world of shadow forms. We have a term here, symbol, and there is an ancient art of symbolism. Now, a symbol is a picture of a motive or an idea or a meaning. It is putting a mysterious truth into the form of a picture. And this is also the same thing that happens in the case of the astral light. All action, all attitude, all feeling can be considered as pictorial. Everything that exists has a shape of some kind. Some of these shapes we can see around us in daily life. Some of these shapes impose themselves upon us in sleep as dreams and nightmares. Some of these shapes never appear to the physical world at all. Others are particularly limited to the abilities of psychics.